Now, before I go into the stuff relating to the Direct, let me get the one non-Sun and Moon spoilers, depending on your definition of spoilers, out of the way. It wasn't talked about on the Direct, but if you got Pokemon Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, X or Y, you can get Victini for this month in relation to the Pokemon 20th anniversary special, where they're pretty much releasing a new legendary Pokemon every month. Victini is the Pokemon from Pokemon Black and White that you get with a mystery gift event back when the game came out, and you could get it really early and use it throughout the game. I actually did that a little bit. I don't recall if he was a permanent member of my first playthrough, but I did use him for a little while. It was actually pretty fun because to have a Pokemon at the same level as the rest of your team that's a legendary so early on. You could just use them as part of your party. So yeah, go on to Mystery Gift right now, download that. You won't regret it. Onwards to Sun and Moon. So if you want to avoid spoilers on those topics, be sure to turn off the video or skip past this portion of the KayCast right now, because here it comes. So in my opinion, the quality versus quantity, it was definitely more focused on quality, because the only new thing mentioned about Sun and Moon in the Nintendo Direct was a new Alola form and more details on the Z moves. As for the new Alola Pokemon, you're not going to believe this, guys. They made an Alola Rattata. Yeah, it is now a normal dark type, which I was honestly type-wise skeptical about. Because, man, you're going to die to Mach Punches with that typing. Super weak to fighting types. Not really too much of a type advantage you get out of such a coverage. The only good thing normal does is give you an immunity to ghost type moves, which dark types already resist, and you're a fool if you're sending a ghost type against a dark type. So I guess I haven't changed my mind about the typing. It's not a favorable typing, but I love the design, so I'm willing to look over that. Secondly, looking over the site, it actually can get one of the two abilities Rattatas don't normally have. Either Gluttony, which is an ability where you use your berries sooner, which is, I think, could be good for early game, which I assume we're going to get the Rattata at. Or Hustle, which actually would give it more of a competitive vibe compared to Gluttony, in my opinion. Although, I guess it depends on your taste towards battling, if you like which one over the other. Because Hustle is an ability that increases your attack, but in exchange, all your moves are inaccurate. You take a little drop of accuracy in exchange for a bit of extra attack. But it's a Rattata, so I don't exactly see it going anywhere in the multiplayer mode anyways. I just thought they were two interesting abilities for the Pokemon. I also like the little backstory that they gave Rattata, and I'm not going to go into it here, but the internet is exploding in love over the backstory. I'll just read it, and you guys can take a guess why. Their population exploded. These are my notes, so I kind of paraphrase it. But essentially, their population exploded in Alola a while back, so they introduced Yongus to reduce the population. And then, however, the Rattatas adapted to different environments and became nocturnal in order to avoid the threat. Now, my reasons for liking this backstory is different from the general internet. So let me just talk about that. What I really like about it is it reminds me of the colonial days where certain populations of species over flourish in areas, so settlers would introduce different animals to try to counteract that, and a lot of times it backfired on them. Kind of like how the Rattatas are adapting to the Yongus. And I just feel like that's such a cool cultural tie, even though it's very likely that it's unintentional. As for why the internet likes it, you'll just have to look that up yourself. But maybe I can get the internet to think of my reasoning for the best reasoning. One can dream. The other new thing that we got out of the Nintendo Direct was a bit more detail on Z moves. Now, I will admit the line between what was already announced about Z moves and what hasn't been is a bit unclear. There's just so much rumor, speculation, and third-party sources that I don't quite remember what has officially been revealed and what hasn't. So I'll just go over Z moves in general, for those of you who haven't discovered what Z moves are yet. It seems like it's going to be a replacement for Mega Evolution, more on that later, where a Pokemon holds on to a crystal, and instead of getting a whole new form for the power of bondness between a trainer and Pokemon, it allowed to do an Final Smash Ultra special move. A Z move can only be done once per battle, kind of like Mega Evolution. And what I believe is new to Nintendo Direct is, on top of there being a Z move for each type, there's also special Z moves that only a certain Pokemon can do with a certain Z stone. There's Z crystals, I believe. All the things I write down I know, and I didn't write that much. For example, although Raichu has a Volt Surf move that is exclusive to that Pokemon, and Snorlax is going to get a Z move exclusive to it. Did I really not write down the name of it? But it's called Pulverizing Pancake. I am 99% sure on that. It's ridiculous, but awesome. And they actually talked about how we're actually going to get access to the Z move, which I like and don't like because it's basically just a loose pre-order bonus. How it's going to work is around the launch of Pokemon Sun and Moon, you have a chance to get a Munchlax with a Sea Crystal that allows it to do the Pulverizing Pancake move when it evolves into a Snorlax. Now, this Munchlax is at least cool in my opinion because it knows a couple moves that the Snorlax family doesn't normally have access to. One, it has a move called Holdback, which is basically False Swipe for you Pokemon fans that are familiar with it. Attacks a Pokemon, and even if it would normally faint it would always leave it with 1 HP. And it also has the move Happy Hour, which is basically like having an amulet coin, doubling the prize money you earn in battles. Now, having these two moves on Pokemon that you get right from the beginning of the game, at least I assume, is actually really cool. And I'm looking forward to using this Munchlax myself when I get Pokemon Sun or Moon, assuming that the promotion's still going on when I get said games. So, I just realized I said I would talk about why I don't think Mega Evolutions are coming back this gen, and then I go make a whole video ignoring that I would do that. Let me try and amend it, even if it results in a little wonky transition of quality from the previous portion of the video to this one. The suspicion for my theory begins as early as Pokemon X and Y themselves. The way the game was created, it put a lot of draw on Mega Evolutions being a force of the Kalos region in general, and not really a thing that's used outside of said region. Just from the way I've played the game and the lore was presented, made me suspect that Pokemon X and Y Mega Evolutions would be coincide with one another. It'd be the thing of Pokemon X and Y. Granted, when they brought back Mega Evolutions for Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, my suspicions were subsided. But now that we got a new generation of Pokemon coming along the way, and the games come out in 2 months from now, and they've been releasing new news about Pokemon Sun and Moon for a while. But you know what we haven't heard yet? Mega Evolutions. We have yet to see a single new Mega Evolution. We haven't even seen previous Mega Evolutions used in battles from the gameplay that we've seen of Pokemon Sun and Moon. All we've seen are the Z moves. A set of moves that are tied between trainer and Pokemon can only be used once per battle and unlock hidden power within said Pokemon. Sounds familiar? Almost sounds the exact same way as a Mega Pokemon. Just instead of being a new form of stronger power and different abilities, it's limited to one singular move. But you know, we still have gotten old Pokemon getting new shapes and forms. The Alola forms. And what have we seen of Alola forms so far? Gen 1 Pokemon. What was the huge focus of Mega Evolutions? The first generation. Now that last point is kind of stretching it a bit, because I know Mega Evolutions aren't just exclusive to the first generation of Pokemon. It's just a point I want to bring up because the fact that we got the first generation starters in X and Y, how there were so many Mega Evolutions of the first generation of Pokemon in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, despite the fact that a lot of those first generation Pokemon don't normally appear in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So unless you trade Pokemon in, you wouldn't get access to these Megas until post-game. It almost seems like Alola forms are taking over the physical change of Pokemon, and the Z moves are taking over the power. Granted, this is all speculation, and I honestly do want Mega forms to not be something exclusive to one generation of Pokemon. I want it to be something that goes from game to game to game. Because sure, it seemed a gimmick at the time, but it's really changed the competitive battling scene for the better. It's made teams a lot less exclusive to just the strongest legendary Pokemon. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised by this possibility if it goes through though. As I said in X and Y, Mega Evolutions were really built up to be a thing that made Kalos special. So I'm not surprised if Mega Evolutions end up just being a thing exclusive to this past generation. The thing that sets it apart from the gameplay mechanics of previous Pokemon games and future ones to come. I really wouldn't like it to be that way. I think there's a lot more potential for battling purposes with Mega Evolution than there is with Z moves. But I won't be surprised if Z moves and Alola forms end up replacing Mega Evolutions. But that's just me putting on my tinfoil hat and rambling here. With that, I am done with talking about Pokemon related news from the Nintendo Direct. And in the next, and hopefully final edition for this week's KayCast, I will dive into other interesting things that came from Nintendo Direct. I might summarize and breeze through a lot of them though, so forgive me in advance. See you in a moment.